Hey True Seekers, it's Nathaniel here to do another deck profile. Today I will be covering our Ellie, Holy Spirit, Hope, and Universal deck. Alright, to start off with, we have Ellie. Ellie has the effect that says she changes the victory condition to winning by scoring 55 virtue points. Now, in competitive play, she has been errated to win by scoring 70 victory points, which is 7 less than what you need to win compared to the 5 less you need to win in casual games. All right? We have, since Ellie provides the one Holy Spirit that we need to activate a lot of our Animo, we decided to go ahead and focus on using just the fasting power cards. And we do need, basically, we need exactly like a 4 hope in play, and we need one more to kind of shuffle back and forth in our deck. So that's why we have 5 hope. Okay? And now we're going to move Ellie up here. Our power cards up here. We're going to go over the rest of the cards in the deck. So this is Paul's Chains. Paul's Chains is a card that we can equip it to an Animo, and that Animo can't be activated, but in exchange we can discard it at any time during our setup phase. And also once per turn, as long as it's attached to an Animo in our small group, we can search our deck for up to 2 level 1 Animos and place them in our small group. This is extremely helpful in getting everything set up for our deck. Next up, we have 2 Bible Study Holy Spirit, because there are a lot of Holy Spirit Animo that are necessary for this deck. And so this card says, search your deck for any 1 Holy Spirit Animo, reveal it and put it in your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Moving on to our Cinnies, we have 1 Grasshopper, which has the action that lets us look at our opponent's hand, take a card from their hand, and shuffle it back into their deck. Really handy for decks that search out their cards during their score phase. And this is Zapper King. Zapper King is one of our boss cards because he literally wins us games. It says your opponent will not play any level 1 Animo from their hand to their small group during their next turn. Then we have Wolf. Wolf has the ability that if it's in your hand, you may choose to show it to your opponent and shuffle it back in your deck. And if we do, we get a draw card. It's really helpful when you don't need a Cinny, that you can shuffle this one back and draw a different card. And even if you draw a Wolf again, you can just shuffle Wolf back in the deck and draw another card. Next up, we have Waspits. Waspits has the action that when the Cinny is revealed, select up to 1 card from your opponent's discard pile and set it aside, and it may not be returned for the duration of the game. So essentially, it removes a card in their discard pile from the game, which is very helpful. Then we have the new Tokro, who has the ability that says, as long as this card is active, your opponent may not use any special power cards from their power pool to activate Animo. This has been very handy in certain cases because it stops their prayer cards and their fasting cards. Then we got Mega Globster and Mega Nastry, which are both 16 defense Cinnies. And we just decided to go with bigger Cinnies for this deck, so we decided to go with Tokro Mega Plus, who's a 21 defense Cinny. Alright, moving on to our Animo. Here are 2 Hoofits. This deck does have a lot of combo pieces that it needs to have inside of its deck, and if you've already used those combo pieces and they're in your discard pile, it's kind of a pain in the butt to not have them anymore. So what we do is we use the ability that says, if this card's in your hand, you may choose to discard it. If you do, you may shuffle any 3 cards from your discard pile back into the deck. And then we have 2 Schwimmers, so we can find our power cards that we need. It just grabs a standard power card, so it'll only be grabbing the Hope power cards. And we need a Hope in order to activate it, so it's kind of a struggle to get this first power card, which is also why there's more Hope in the deck. Then we have 2 or 3 Squibbles. And something else about this Schwimmer. This Schwimmer combos very well with the Professor, and because you can essentially, if you use Professor or Tortosaur to shuffle power cards back into your deck, you can use this guy to go grab them back again. Also, we get to use the Fellowship bonus on these guys, which is pretty handy in this deck. So anyways, we have New Squibble, who is a 1 for 3 or a 1 for 6. And then we got one of the stars of the deck, Tortosaur, who has the action that you may search your deck for any one Animo and place it directly into your small group. Torosaur does require you to shuffle back one Hope Power card. And then alongside him, we have 3 Professor. And Professor has the action that says you may search your deck for up to 2 level 1 Animo, excluding Ultra, and place them into your small group. All right, so just to give you guys an idea, you shuffle 2 power cards back with this guy, you shuffle 2 power cards back with Tortosaur. All right. Now, 2 Tortosaurs result basically in the same effect of 1 Professor. However, they both cost 2, but this one has the value of 6 virtue points, and this one has the value of 8. So Professor is always better, unless you have an Alpha Lux Ultra. Alpha Lux Ultra, he increases the virtue points of Animo activating the same turn as him by 2. So he would become a 10 for 2, and these guys would become 5 for 1, meaning they have the same exact value as Professor. So keep that in mind. And if you manage to pull off 2 Alpha Lux Ultras, you'll then be dealing with Professor being 12, while these guys are 7s. So this would be 14 for 2, and this guy would be a 12 for 2. So keep that in mind when you try out this deck. Okay? But Professor and Tortosaur are very important for the combos in this deck. All right? Next up, we have 3 Hightails. You'll notice that there's not a whole lot of story cards that give you draw power in this deck, and that is because Hightail is the only draw power in this deck. Hightail has the ability that once per turn across all copies of this card with its retreat ability, while this card's in your hand, you may choose to reveal it to your opponent and shuffle it back into your deck. If you do, draw 3 cards. So she's very helpful, plus towards the end game when you just need to go get the points, shuffling back power cards for 9 for a level 1 is really good. All right, next up is Oinkum level 1, who's a 2 for 7. You shuffle 1 back. But he grows into Oinkum level 2, who is a 8 for 2, but has the action to search your deck for 2 power cards, place them directly into your power pool, shuffle your deck afterwards. So essentially, if you can get the 1 power card and use your swimmer to get the 2nd power card, you can use Oinkum to get the next power card that you need. The next 2 power cards that you need. And that usually fills you out, giving you space for 1 fasting. All right. Next up, we have Fos. All right, Fos is a 1 for 3 or a 1 for 5. He is a Holy Spirit Animo, so we already have Ellie that enables to activate Fos. We needed some toolbox cards, so we have the Gut Piece from Cross Trainers. The Gut Piece from Cross Trainer has the ability, says, when you play this card from your hand to your small group, you may search your deck for any one Faith or Hope Animo, and shuffle your deck afterwards. Okay. Oh, and also, Gut Piece grows into Gut Piece level 2, which has the ability, says when this card is played from your hand to grow Gut Piece level 1, you may reshuffle your hand in your deck and draw 6 cards. This also helps us with draw power. I guess we're not only relying on Hightail. Next up, we have Strider. All right, so Strider. First off, let's talk about Strider level 1. Strider level 1 has the swap ability, which says this card's in your small group and your small group is full. You may choose to swap it with 1 level 1 Animo from your hand if you do draw 2 cards. This is very powerful because you can essentially swap a Strider for a Strider, draw 2 cards, grow the 2nd Strider into a level 2. The level 2 has the action that says search your deck for any level 1 Faith, Hope, or Love Animo, excluding Ultra, and place it directly in your small group. So he has a similar effect to Tortosaur and Professor. Okay, so these guys are going to be our main comboers of the deck. All right, and the reason for this is because we're going to try and activate as many Animo as possible with Alpha Lux to score as many points as possible. All right, so. And there's our other Strider. Now moving on to our Universal Animo. We have 3 Bibsy. All right, Bibsy has the ability, says when this card is played from your hand to your small group, you may draw one card for each Animo in your small group besides this one. So the best thing about Bibsy in this deck is that we were originally running Sea Curl in this deck, or running Sea Curl in addition to this, but we ended up having to cut Sea Curl for room. But essentially, in this deck, we'll use Professor or Tortosaur or to go grab Bibsy, because with Aquilion Ultra, Bibsy becomes free. And making a free for 3 is pretty good. But when you combine that with the Alpha Lux Ultras, what you find is Bibsy is going to be free for like 5 or free for 7. And getting an extra free 10 to 14 points in a single turn is pretty good. Okay. Alrighty. And then next up we have Prayer Group. So we have 2 prayer groups. Prayer groups function in this deck is like a backup plan. Sometimes there are turns where we don't actually get to do what we want to do with this deck because we're waiting on stuff. And if we have the power cards for it and we're still building up our small group, we can activate one prayer group and get like a fourth of the points that we need to win the game. Because we pay 6, invest it all into prayer group, and that's 18 points. So prayer group's really, really good. You'll notice that the rarity that we have is 2 different rarities on these. Yep. One is from the packs, and the other one is from the Truth Seeker collector's box. Next up, card I spoiled already, is Aquilion Ultra. It says, as long as this card's in your small group, you may remove 1 universal cost from your other Animo. You'll notice that the only cards that cost universal are my universal Animo in this deck. It isn't too big of a problem, but I realized that I could have probably put this in, built this deck more around this ability. It's more like something that's like an added bonus. But it is helpful because of the Bibsy. And then lastly, we have the 2 Alpha Lux Ultras. The 2 Alpha Lux Ultras are 10 for 3, but Aquilion makes it 10 for 2, so 1 fasting will cover that, which is really important because our goal is to activate as many Animo as possible. Because its ability, as I mentioned before, is when it's activated, any Animo activated in the same turn get +2 virtue points. It doesn't affect itself, but it does make Professor bigger and the Animo that Professor grab bigger. So that's really important. I think like this deck, if you hit the combo correctly, you can get over 77 points in a single turn. But that's like if you play it perfectly. Most likely you're going to be trying to do this twice, which is why there's 2 Alpha Lux Ultras. And you can use Hoof It to put them back. But also, in addition, Alpha Lux Ultra is a if you can manage to get both Alpha Lux Ultras, it's really strong. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to set this up to show you guys what this is actually going to look like. Alrighty, so this is how this works. You pay 1 to activate the Strider. Strider is going to go ahead and grab Tortosaur. And then you're going to go and pay 1 to activate Alpha Lux Ultra. Get his ability live. And then you're going to go ahead and shuffle 1 back for Tortosaur, who's going to go and grab a Tortosaur. Then you're going to go ahead and shuffle 1 back for Tortosaur to grab another Tortosaur. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and pay 2 to activate Oinkum. And Oinkum's going to grab back your 2 power cards. Okay? You are then going to go ahead and pay 1 for Tortosaur to go grab another Tortosaur. And then you're going to pay 1 more to shuffle this back, Tortosaur to go ahead and grab your Bibsy, and Bibsy is going to become free because of Aquilion. All right. And now this is going to be 10, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and that's 50. So that's 50 points all together in a single turn. There are other combinations that you can do with this, such as instead of grabbing Tortosaur, you can grab Professor and have Professor, when you activate him, to go grab Bibsy and another Professor instead of these Tortosaurs. And that way, when you activate the Winkum, get your power cards back, activate this Professor to go and grab the other two Bibsies, then all three of these would then be free. And then this is going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 55, 60, 65 points in a single turn. Meaning that with this, you're only 5 points away from winning. Okay? There's other different combinations that you can do, especially when you start adding the fellowship bonuses and throwing in the Schwimmers and such. So that will give you a lot more push. But anyways, we're going to bring this video to a close. So in the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Sydneys.